Welcome to the Talking Shop podcast, where I'm here to share stories, lessons, and experiences in sports performance and professional development. I'm your host, Matt Tomez, and I'm super excited to take you through TSP 69 Networking 101, understanding the why, how, and what of networking. So let's get into it. First off, why speak on networking? I have a screenshot of a tweet from Brett Bartholomew saying, bad advice, quote, you must be an expert to share your story, thoughts, or learnings. Better advice, sharing what you've learned on your journey. You don't have to have the answer to provide value to others. Imposter phenomenon holds too many people back. A friend of mine sent this to me on Instagram, and it kind of really hit home for me because a majority of my podcast is sharing stories, lessons, experiences, just talking about what I've went and been able to go do myself and somewhat accomplish, if that's the verb I want to use. And I call him Little Overambitious Matt. Whenever I have an idea to go do something and I decide it's the right decision for me, I just go do it. And I think that there's a lot of value in going and doing and figuring stuff out for yourself. So this podcast is just speaking on my recent networking effort experiences, what I've learned and what you can learn from it. I'm nowhere near an expert, and the imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon is actually really interesting that this was brought up, because I've experienced this not more than ever, but just a new imposter syndrome when I'm hopping on the phone with these people that have PhDs that are with all these pro organizations. And it's just like, why are you on the phone with me? Why are you giving me your time? Why are you being so nice to me? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, I'm just some other 20-something-year-old calling and asking for a job, even though that's not like the first thing I do or what I really directly do. But I'm just some other person trying to network through you. And I might feel a little bit defensive because I feel like networking people do incorrectly often. So I don't want to be another one of those people. But I've definitely felt that a lot myself. And just to reiterate, I've not figured this out at all. I'm not here to flex, say what people's contact numbers I have in my phone now, whose emails I have, what phone calls I've had with certain people, because it's not really the point of networking. It's just to accumulate fancy people's names in your phone. That would actually make it worse. Me just saying that I've achieved something just by being able to hop on the phone with these people. These are super nice people, and that wouldn't really be, they're just being nice people just to hop on the phone with me. So I just want to share what I've done. And finally, on this topic of just sharing, I had a coach slide in my DMs and talk about how, well, first he offered some constructive criticism on just my content, which I appreciated. But then he followed it up with, I enjoy your content because it's not something people talk a lot about in this field. You know, I always say it's overhyped and underdelivered. People always say network and do all this stuff, but no one really tells you how to do it or what to do or why to do it. Everyone just keeps talking about technical. Now, I love technical stuff. It's awesome. At the end of the day, we have to be good technicians, good practitioners, but just trying to give a little bit of what people need, maybe a lot of what they need, some of what they want, and kind of just putting it all together with Little Overambitious Matt leading the way. First, I had to create context and operational definition of networking. And I have kind of three tiers or three kind of variations, progressions of this definition. Networking, connecting with people in a professional context. And I'll break it down. So connecting with people, you're connecting with not resumes on a piece of paper. You're not connecting with a job title. You're not connecting with an organization. You're connecting with a person. You're not a robot. They're not a robot. You're a person, a human with your own stories, lessons, and experiences, trying to learn more about their stories, lessons, experiences. And you're hitting them up because they've gotten to where you want to be. So why don't you ask them the story, the journey of how they got there? That's for later in the PowerPoint. In a professional context, there has to be why, there has to be goal, there has to be purpose. You can't just be hitting up all of these random people just to hit them up. Oh, wow, you have a cool job, or you're in an organization I would want to work for. Well, if I was hitting up the HR person at a pro sports team, or if I was hitting up the director of ticket sales, yeah, that's professional, but it has to be professional context to you and that person, so it's somewhat relevant. Like I said, because it has to have a why and a little bit of focus to then as the foundation of that networking and connecting. Operational definition number 2. Connecting with people and exchanging value in a professional context. So just adding in the exchanging value. So everything in life, kind of as cliche or corny as it sounds, is exchanging value. We do things because we think it'll add value to ourselves. We put in our time, effort, blood, sweat, tears because we think that it'll add more value or it'll be an equal exchange of value to ourselves eventually. We do things because we give value to other people. Hence why there's these people way up above me that are giving me an hour to 2 hours of their time at a time just to hop on the phone and talk some shop. The Talking Shop podcast. Because they consequently get value because they feel good about themselves. I'm not saying that's the only reason they do it, but they get some value out of it. A lot of people say, oh, I'm more than happy to hop on the phone. I've had so many people pour into me as a professional, so it's my opportunity to give back. So that's how they get value out of it. So you have to connect, but it has to be mutually beneficial. And people will define value or have their own interpretations of value in different ways. And you just have to get to know the person. And me, I'm more of a straight shooter. I'll say, however I can provide value to you, you please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to try to do it for you. So you're connecting with them, it's mutually beneficial, again, in this professional context of you two as professionals, somewhat relevant to your jobs, careers, professions. Third, connecting with people and exchanging value to increase the odds for professional advancement. So connecting with people, exchanging value to increase the odds. So I'm going to focus on this last part. To increase the odds for professional advancement. And the reason why, so this was like the progression of my definition, and I was just going to include the third one, to increase the odds for professional advancement, but kind of as I was reading, I was like, yeah, that's the point, kind of, ultimately, but like, to get to that point, you have to do definitions 1 and 2 first. And like I said, it is important to have the why, the context, the goal in mind, and increase the odds for professional advancement. People network to get better jobs, right? And you can get a better job for better pay, better work-life balance, better clout to lead you to a next better job, whatever it may be. It's hard to give so much time and effort just cause. Like, there has to be some focus. And like I said, you are connecting with humans, but there also has to be a point. Now, I'm not saying that point has to be accomplished within the first 10 minutes of hopping on the phone with them, but to increase the odds for professional advancement, whatever that may be for you. That could be finding an eventual business partner. That could be trying to hop on someone's research project and then getting your name associated with them / getting your name on more research, whatever it may be. So, like I said, it's important to have an end goal, but if I had, number 3 with the increase the odds, and I said increase the odds because it doesn't always happen. The more people you know, the more people they know, and then et cetera, you're increasing the odds. Like I said, it's not within the first 10 minutes you get your dream job, you get whatever you want out of them. If I just gave you that definition right off the bat, I don't think that would be doing it justice, because there is this kind of progression of when you first start out networking. You're connecting with people in a professional context. And then the more kind of you get into it, you're better at it, you start exchanging value, try to make it mutually exclusive. You know people that you can connect them with, and then you have more experiences in your back pocket that they could potentially lean on. And subsequently, when you're just more experienced with networking, you can figure out, how can I increase my odds for professional advancement? And this will kind of all make sense, but it's important to compare and contrast, like I said, to not get too ahead of ourselves, but to keep the end goal in our back pocket, but to do it the right way. Why network? So, of course, this is following the format of why, how, what. Take care of the why, you take care of the how. The what will almost always take care of itself. Why should you network? Why should I talk about it? Because all of these people, they are all friends. I will hop on the phone, I will name drop someone that I chatted with or whatever it may be, and they'll know that person. They'll name drop someone, however it comes up in the conversation. Oh, I had a call with them last week. Oh, I have a call scheduled with them for next week. And it's a club. Like, as cliche as that sounds, they are all similar people. We like people like us. They're all people with pro sport organizations. They're all people who are college strength and conditioning coaches, who are in sports science, whatever, in research, whatever it may be, whatever facet of sports performance and just general professional development you want to go into. It's a club. And it's not like that you can't sit with us, but it's like there's this mutual kind of respect of like, you've been there, done that, I've been there, done that, look at us. Like, it's not to be cocky, it's not to set them, put themselves higher than they are, but it's kind of like a boys club. Like, if you're in, then you're just in, and that matters to people. I hope I didn't make that sound as bad as I think I just made it sound, but they're all friends. It's a club. They're all together, and they value each other's opinions. And this is important because someone's vouch for you will go 100% farther than anything else you could possibly do as a professional in this context of increasing the odds for professional advancement. And I'm going to share an anecdote. It's not my anecdote, but it's my buddy's. So at TCU, there was a guy or girl. He was a strength and conditioning graduate assistant, and he actually left halfway through his master's to take this job. And it was interesting because where he was applying, or once he found that job application online, one of the pretty high up strength and conditioning coaches at TCU was an alumni of that school and had done S&C work at that school. And so he sent a screenshot of the posting and texted it to him and said, hey, what do you think? And of course, the higher up strength coach was very supportive. Obviously, he believed in the GA's work, which I'll get to, but at the end of the day, you have to walk the walk. So he had to walk the walk for a whole year. This strength coach knew who he was, his work ethic, the type of product he can produce, the services he can provide. So he said, oh, I'll text, call some people, like I totally have your back. And subsequently, the swim and dive head coach coached there, I think, or knew someone who was there, and he was relatively new to TCU, and he knew, and this GA had worked for the swim and dive team, so he knew the coach as well. And the swim and dive coach knew whoever at this school and said, over the last 2 years I've been building up my program. The last piece of the puzzle is hiring this guy or girl as a strength coach. If I could hire him or her myself, I would, as a sport coach. And when this individual got farther along in the interview process, the employer said that person, both of those people's opinions, put you in this whole pool of 140 applicants to the top 8. And subsequently, the strength coaches, because it's more specific to that job, the strength coaches vouch, because he's very well respected in the field, brought him into the top 2, top 3. And that's where I still say that cold applications are important, right? You have to find stuff, you have to get your name out there, but they are all in, like, they've been there, done that, each themselves. And they get that, they respect that, they value each other's opinions, if you walk the walk, right? And someone's vouch for you will go 100% farther than you just doing it on your own. So that's a little story that I think is an awesome anecdote. I'm very excited for my buddy, and he or she is going to do awesome things there. Second bullet point, they've been there, done that. Like I said, it's kind of like a club, and networking is how they got there. So with all of these phone calls I've been having of recent for networking, just connecting, exchanging value, increase odds of professional advancement eventually, the biggest thing that I've gotten from all of these people's stories, lessons, experiences, wink wink, is that they never just filled out one cold application and then that's how they end up getting their job. It was because they're all in a club and they're all together, one of their buddies at a different university, at a different pro team, was like, hey, we're looking for a new sports scientist. Do you know anyone? Or, hey, our strength and conditioning coach is going to retire in 3 months. Do you know anyone that we should look into, or could you send anyone our way, or whatever it may be? And I'll get to this, but like I said, to be recommended for those things, you have to walk the walk. But the fact that there's someone that they feel comfortable, you are someone that they feel comfortable recommending to someone that they value their opinion, that is 100% how these people get their jobs. And that's something that people don't want to talk about. And I figured this out by just asking, how did you get that job? Well, I would phrase it a little bit more eloquently than that. But how did you get to where you are now? Or kind of, that's interesting. You don't have direct experience in that sport. How did that kind of come to be? Or just phrase it like a human. Put it all together. So just kind of as I accumulated more and more calls, it's just like, this is how these people get to where they are. Like, why is no one doing this? Why is no one talking about this? So here I am trying to fill that gap. But they've been there, done that. Like I said, I try to phrase it all. This stuff all goes together. It's crazy. Just do it. This is important. How to network. You got to connect with humans. They're not robots. You're not a robot. You have to exchange value. It has to be mutually beneficial. And a closed mouth doesn't get fed. This kind of goes back to increasing the odds for professional advancement. But you have to communicate about yourself. It's funny, kind of the more phone calls I have, the first, depending on the person and the phone call, but first off, the first 2 minutes, navigating those 2 minutes is one of the hardest things I've ever done. Just, do you start with the professional? Do you start with the casual? I don't want to be cliche, what have you been up to during this COVID quarantine stuff, whatever. But because I have my questions, I'm reaching out to them, so I feel like I have to kind of carry the conversation at first until they kind of reciprocate it. Not that they have to, but kind of carrying the conversation with my questions, with the follow-up questions, with the topics I want to ask them about, because I'm prepared. And then eventually they'll kind of flip it on me, and they'll say, tell me about yourself. And when I'm telling my story, college baseball, undergrad, master's, I stumbled upon this thing called sports science. I really enjoyed, working in college. And because of all this quarantine stuff, and then normally they'll comment on, I don't want to be you. And it's like, I don't want to be me either. Just with the job search and everything. And I'm like, yes, I am looking for a job, an internship, pro college sports science, technology, consulting. So I've just been, coaching back home, keeping that tool sharp. I've been networking, making calls, and, I got your number from so-and-so. I'm extremely grateful for their time, that they were willing to give me your number, and I'm extremely grateful for your time as well, that you're willing to take some time out of your day, and I've really enjoyed our chat this far. But that's a little bit about me. And you can weave it in there when it's your time to talk about yourself. And then also, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Whether it's the first phone call, a second phone call, whenever I feel it's the most appropriate, I say, all right, this is that awkward part of the phone call that I hate doing every time, but yes, I am looking for a job. Not that this is the reason I'm calling you, but if you knew anyone that you think I should contact, if you feel comfortable me reaching out to them kind of on your word, on your behalf, or if there's a job you think I should apply to, whatever it may be, I would greatly appreciate it. And it's so tough because that's not the point, but at the end of the day, like, that is kind of the end goal. And everyone's been super nice. They always say, I've been in your shoes before, you're doing all of the right things. And this goes back to the imposter syndrome, because they all say I'm doing the right things, but it hasn't panned out just yet. But I feel like I'm getting closer with every call, even if it's like that much closer. Still closer than I was before the phone call. And it's also just encouraging hearing these awesome people's stories and their words of encouragement. But they say, you're doing the right things. You're doing the right things, and I'll keep my eye and ear out for you. And some of them, they'll give me 2, 3, 4 people's emails at a time. Some people won't. Some people might send me a job posting just randomly, kind of through email, whatever it may be. But a closed mouth doesn't get fed when appropriate, which I will get to. And that's how to network. what to do for networking. You got to go out, you got to make those connections and exchange that value. You got to be on top of your stuff. You got to be professional, you got to be personable, and I'll give action steps at the end, which is the theme of my podcast. But I guess I'll kind of get to this, but I'll speak on it now. Being on top of your stuff, being professional, being personable. How do you give value to these people that are in these pro college sport organizations, wherever it may be, where you want to go, right? You're looking at them in some way, shape, or form in this professional context. And if your way of giving value is by initiating the conversation, reaching out, by being respectful, showing that you respect them and their time, whatever it may be, then you just got to go do and crush that. So you got to go out and connect. You have to make it mutually beneficial, and you have to do those three things, and then I'll get into the action steps, because this slide isn't exactly the action steps. So it's a simple way to providing value, kind of like I said, is by asking really good questions, showing that you respect them, their time, that you are willing to put in a little bit more of your time and effort than kind of the average bear to create really good questions. And I have a full YouTube video on this. The link will be in the description below, of how I formulate questions for my podcast and for the 3+ interviews for Samson Equipment's Strength Coach Collective, which is a podcast that their director of marketing reached out to me to host a few of their episodes because he enjoyed the Talking Shop podcast a lot himself. Or just, he listened to a few episodes and thought I would do a good job for their podcast. And that's a really easy way to show value, by helping them realize how cool their journey and job is, by asking really awesome questions. If these people are high up, you're reaching out to them, they're busy people. They might get lost in kind of how cool their journey and job is. So by taking time and effort to being thoughtful, asking these questions, helping them reminisce, asking them questions that they've never been asked before. That's one of my favorite comments to receive, is a simple way to provide value. So just putting them out there. What not to do. So first, you have to establish a relationship and rapport. So this is the parenthesis, when appropriate. Don't do anything stupid before having a relationship or rapport. These people that you call network contact with are not going to open up their entire phone contact and just copy and paste and send the whole thing to you 10 minutes into your phone call, right? They're not going to get you an interview with them or their coworker 10 minutes into talking with them. And I don't know if it's people being patient or people just not really understanding what it takes to network effectively, but do not kind of get out of your lane too soon or at all, just because you're feeling the vibe a little bit with the phone call, or because you can, or because you're just really anxious. You just want to get it out there. Like I said, it'll take me 2 or 3 phone calls to bring up that topic of, yes, I'm looking for a job. If you can help me out, however, I would appreciate it. And like I said, these people are really nice. They say that they've been in my shoes before and they understand. But do not hit them up too often. I like to give, I used to say 4 to 6 weeks in between, which someone on the Samson Strength Coach Collective said that they are glad I put that in the interview, because some people hit them up like 1 to 3 weeks, and it's just like, dude, nothing's changed between this Saturday and last Saturday, or 2 Saturdays ago, or whatever it may be. But now I'm leaning more towards the 2 months-ish range, maybe even beyond that. But don't hit them up too often. They're busy people. You want to have something to talk about. Once you have that first phone call of your stories, lessons, experiences, how you got to where you are now, my stories, lessons, experiences, where I got to now, and some of those initial questions you come up with to help guide the convo, you can't really go over all that stuff again. Like, that was kind of the point of the first phone call. So you have to let some stuff develop in their life and also your life to give you something to talk about. And also, I guess I just thought of this, if you're seeking advice from them, some 2 cents, you have to act on that advice. That is the biggest thing of mentorship, as professional or casual as just seeking advice through one phone call. If they recommend you go do one thing and you're reaching out to them in a professional context, you have to go do that thing. to show them that you truly value their opinion, and then you give yourself something to talk about for that next phone call. But don't hit them up too often. Don't be inauthentic and genuine. These people are smart for, you're reaching out to them because they're smart for a reason. They can see right through it. And I actually had a call with someone in the NBA, and he went from private to NBA, and this intern from the private facility called him, and they were just chatting and stuff. And the guy, and he's somewhat more of a blunt person, but he's like, it just seems like you're logo chasing. Like, you're not chasing the right things. Like, you're just doing it for the glory. Whether that's right or wrong, like, those are the vibes I'm getting. And, like, I know you. If some random person's going to pick that up way sooner than I will. So, like, yes, you want to be different, and you can figure out what to say to sound good, but just, like, be yourself, be professional, be personable. It's not going to work if you're not being yourself. And then just some perspective to put that out there before I get on to the action steps. You're not going to be best friends with everyone. There's some people, I hang up the phone and I'm like, man, I cannot wait to chat with them again. Or I would love just to grab a beer and just chat for like 3 hours. Like, that would just be super cool. And then some people hang up the phone, I'm just like, oh gosh, like what wasn't right? Like, that just didn't feel good. Like, did I do something? Did they, like, was I just not vibing with them? And it's just like, do they hate me? It's just all this stuff. So you're not going to be best friends with everyone network with. A majority of them probably won't lead. I don't know if majority is the right term, but that's the term I used. Half, majority, some of them probably won't lead to anything noticeably significant. And like I said, in order to build that rapport, in order for them to feel comfortable opening up their network to you, associating their name with your name in this professional context, is going to take some time. And although it might not be noticeably significant, so let's see, I got someone in the Pac-12, they gave me someone in the MLB, they gave me someone in the SEC, they gave me someone in the MLB again, and that person gave me the NBA person I just mentioned. And like, when you first think about just giving you an email, it might not be noticeably significant in the moment, but you have to keep going. It's going to take time. You have to build rapport with all of these people. But just that chain, when that first hit me, was pretty cool. So not to get discouraged, but also, like, is the goal of one phone call to change your life? Eventually, maybe. Not everyone is going to. If everyone changed your life, then you would just need one phone call. So kind of just putting that out there for some perspective. At the end of the day, you have to walk the walk. So I guess that ties into this quote: who do they know and what do they know about you? And this is mainly the what do they know about you. They can know you're a good person. They can know you ask good questions. They can know that you're personable. They can know that you have some experience relative to the field. But if they don't know the type of work you produce, the services you can provide as whatever professional in sports performance, then it's tough for them to really vouch about you. And when it's time for you to get that interview, that their opinion helped you get, you have to walk the walk. And whatever it may be, and you can't be reaching out for all of these jobs, internships, whatever it may be, and not be able to go and crush it. Like, you have to talk the talk, you have to network, you have to do all those things, but if we're here to be professionals, if we're here to make a difference and actually go and do, and that's the point of this networking, is to put ourselves in a better position to go and do eventually. You have to walk the walk for the professional advancement that you might get, but also you have to walk the walk for that person in an interview, whatever it may be, if it leads to that. And just some other perspective is, who do they know and what do they know about you? So who do they know, kind of just changing, being more focused with your networking. And I can call up anyone that I look up. I'm from Chicago Bulls staff directory. I can hit up everyone on their performance staff. But if you do some research, do they post on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram? What kind of content do they produce? Does it seem like they have a voice in the field? My buddy in the Pac-12, hopefully he doesn't hear this, he recently said to me on a phone call that I have a bigger network, or I'm better at this networking thing and reaching out than he is. And he has the job I want, doing sports science for this Pac-12 school. But that's just not something that he does, he has time for, or that he's just recently gotten around to. That's not a good, bad, other, that's just what he commented on. So you can go out and do these things. Oh, you can go out and do these things and make these calls and connections, but, if we were to hit up the same people, line up the same interview, whatever it may be, he would crush it 100% more because he's been there, done that. He has that experience. He's a better practitioner than I am. So there's some perspective about kind of what it really takes. So who do they know and what do they know about you? That's the big thing, is these people can like who you are, but if they don't know, like I said, the how you walk the walk, they might not feel the most comfortable putting their name out there for you. Action steps. So, like I said, the why, how, what. You got to figure out your why. Are you people chasing? Are you chasing people that put out good work, people that are connected in the field, that are respected in the field? Or are you logo chasing? Is it just to get a really cool set of athletic tees, shorts, and shoes, just to have that one place on your resume? And that person in the NBA that called out that intern, they knew that they were just logo chasing. They weren't chasing the experiences. They weren't chasing the people. And that's a tough question to ask and an even tougher question to answer, but figuring out why are you doing it? And it can be more than just people or logo chasing. It could be because, let's say you have a family, you want better hours, you either want more pay or you want more work-life balance, and that's why you're doing it. But you have to figure out your why. Like I said, figure out where you want to go. And that is important because you have to figure out where you want to go, because you have to hit up people that have been there, done that. They've gotten to where they are where you want to be, or they have been where you want to be. And I think that might be on the next slide. But so you have to figure out where you want to go, because who do they know and what do they know about you? And this goes back to who do they know. Do they know people where you want to go? I don't really know how else I can rephrase that, but if you know where you want to go, you can hit up people that are or have been where you want to go. And direction is going to be your biggest friend. Like I said, I could look up any professional sport organization and look up their staff directory and just start firing off LinkedIn messages. It's not rocket science. But if you have a focus, it's going to 100% increase your potential, your odds of professional advancement. You got to do your research. If you get a list of all of these people, are they putting good stuff on Twitter? Do you believe in what they're saying? Do they, I guess social media, you don't have to have social media to be a good practitioner, but, it gives you something to talk about. You can get a better feel of who they are as a person, topics that you could talk about with them. For internships, people internships and just things like that, the internet 100%, there's no excuse not to go out and do a network in this context of sports performance, because everyone's so nice. Not everyone, most people are super nice, super open, and just get on top of your stuff doing your research. 4, contact people that have been or are currently where you want to be. So this goes back to the why or 1 and 2, your why and where you want to go. And this is super important, that there's probably a lot of people, not a lot, a decent amount, more than you would think, in your contacts in your phone already that could provide some value to you. And I'm going to put this in 2 contexts. First, as time progresses, you just got to stay up to date with people, and you don't know where they could be now. So go do your research on your own, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. They can provide value to you in 2 ways. You can start hitting them up if it's somewhat of a relevant connection. I'm going to give a good example. My friend, who was a D2 volleyball coach in Florida, they were a senior when I was a freshman, so we were friends, but not best friends. And I knew that they were a sport coach, and I asked them to be on my podcast. I knew that they could provide something relevant to my podcast. And although I don't necessarily want to be a sport coach or necessarily in the world of volleyball, that's another opportunity to improve the skill of networking, creating questions, having these professional conversations, and whatever it may be. And that's another thing with all of this stuff that I didn't put in here, but it's a skill, and I've mentioned this before. It's a skill, everything's a skill, and you get better at it over time. So if you want to wait a month, and just for the first month you just hit up people somewhat relevant to your job, profession, career, and just practice doing that. If it takes you 200 phone calls to have that skill to feel actually confident to hop on the phone with that one job that you really want, you know how many phone calls you have to get through to get there? 199. You got to start somewhere. So that's the first way that your own context can add you value is you're not using them to practice on them. You're still, like I said, you have to be a human. There's a purpose to it. But your contacts, and then the second place is if they've actually gotten to where you want to be or something a little bit more relevant to where it's more specific to kind of your field. LinkedIn's DMing on social media. You could, if their email is on their organization's website, whatever it may be. But like I said, they have to be where you are now or have been where you want to be. Or are where you want to be. Words. 5. Don't be a robot. Stories, lessons, experiences, things that are different. You could ask them about training philosophies, what their opinion is on velocity-based training. Just all, I don't even know. That was an awful example because it's an awful question. Things that are different, that are more abstract, that are going to get them to reflect on their journey, stories, lessons, experiences, journey, whatever. Just don't be a robot. 6, say thank you. As cliche as that sounds, I don't know necessarily when to text them. If we hop on the phone for 2 hours, then I take them, all the way up until they're busy with something. I don't know if they just spent 2 hours with me, and then 30 minutes later it's a text from me. Oh, hey, this big paragraph text. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Da 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 da. Well, then do I text them a day later? Do I email them a day later? But just saying thank you, expressing your gratitude for their time, like I said, that you value them, is going to go a long way. And then stay organized. Be on top of your stuff. And I have an example on the next slide. Just having an Excel sheet. Who they are, how you contacted them last, or your last means of communication, how many days since your last chat, and a little summary / topics for next time. And like I said, when you're in this context of looking up at these people, how can you provide value to them? And there was this one person, they said, I'd love to stay up to date with you, just chatting, connecting. I'm a busy dude. If you take care of everything else, you hit me up, I'll be more than happy to chat all the time. So if your opportunity to provide value is in simply hitting them up first, being on top of your stuff, then that's what you got to do. And this is just an example. This isn't perfect, which is good, bad, however you want to look at it. When I hit them up last, some things they told me, whether about it was their personal life or something more professional, things to work on myself for our next chat, things to bring up, whatever it may be. But like I said, just being organized. And if we're looking at that 2 month plus range, if I know that it's getting 60, 70, 80 days, I should probably hit them up in the future. Or let's say that they're really busy, I might wait 90, 100 days, whatever it may be. But kind of just some context and just some examples of just seeing what it could look like. Do I think that this could be done a lot better? Yes, but it gets the job done for me. I might redo it. This is just an example, kind of like I said. And there it is. That's all I have prepared for this podcast. I hope it makes sense. Please reach out if you have any questions. Like I said, I don't have it all figured out, but I have gone and done and networked more than the average person, and I want to share my experiences, so hopefully we can all get better together.